Thank you for clicking on this video, and welcome to the Kingdom Within podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look within the voice in your head. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and get the like and subscribe and comment stuff out of the way. I usually forget. So, with that being said, let's get into the video. Everyone has an inner voice. You can hear it when you're alone, or maybe when you're reflecting on your day, maybe a conversation that you had, or maybe it's some plans that you have, or um, maybe when you're reading a book. I hear it really well. Um, this voice, what is it saying to you? You know, what what does it tell you? You know, where does it come from? And I'm not claiming to know all the answers or to know exactly what it's saying to you in your head. Uh, I'm just simply going to tell you what I've experienced and what helped for me and what I learned, or what I learned where I learned it from. From my experience, my inner voice hasn't always been so nice and friendly to me. It's told me things about myself that I I wouldn't tell anybody. I wouldn't, just horrible things. And yeah, it would get personal. It'd get real personal. It would use my past against me. Tell me I'm no good. It would tell me I'm lazy. It tell me that, I can't be myself around other people because that person's too weird. That person is too far out there. You can't talk about certain things. You definitely can't talk about God and Jesus. You can't uh, go around and just um, be that person. When and it would lie to me. It would lie to me and tell me how other people would feel if I did certain things, or if I'd acted a certain way. Um, it would tell me that I was no good and worthless and all that good fun stuff. It led me into a deep depression, as you can imagine. It sounds pretty horrible to even say out loud like this. Um, but yeah, it led me deep down into depression. Someone constantly hitting you over the head with those awful things all the time. It would give me anxiety. It would ultimately, it would lead to destructive actions. And I'd have to express it somehow, and I just didn't know how. I didn't know who to talk to. None of that stuff. And so, yeah, it would come out in very destructive ways, and it would just lead me down this darker path, which led to darker voices, louder voices. And this lasted for years, and they would speak the loudest when I would try to come out of this depression, right? I mean, it would quiet down at first, right? I get this big epiphany like, oh man, no, I can do this, I got this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, the slightest little resistance would happen. Life would get tough, things would change, things wouldn't happen the way I had thought they would. And, you know, it would just, it would destroy me. I would just crumble to pieces and go right back into that hole. And yeah, it got tough. But, the things that helped me was realizing that my thoughts are influenced. Um, there's people that go to school go to college, um, and study how to influence people's minds with ads and stuff. We see a lot of commercials and what have you. So it's definitely a science out there. There's definitely an influence around us, right? And we're closely influenced by our environment. So let's just say, your room, okay, would be the best example. So your room's messy. So you wake up every morning, the room's messy, you don't do anything about it, and you add to the mess, right? And it just comes this overwhelming thing where it's so bad that, no one even wants to help you anymore, you know? Um, and it's a compounding issue when really it's just taking that initial step, right? Taking that initial step towards changing your environment, cleaning up a little bit. It doesn't have to be big things all every day or nothing, but you got to keep with it. You got to have that stick to it. And by cleaning up your physical environment as well as like your mental environment, right? Um, like the the things that don't serve you, the things that you think about that are meaningless, right? Like pink elephants on a rooftop. It's like don't like we're not that's weird. So you just kind of let those things pass. They might be fun sometimes, but anyways, that might be a bad example. But I'll move on. But another thing that can be influenced is other people, right? Other people can influence us in our thoughts and our emotions and stuff. If someone's in a real bad mood, you're around them, it's just going to send you there. And if that person is like consistently having this bad mood, right, or this bad person, then it just becomes this like thing like, oh man, I don't even want to be around this person anymore because every time I am, they give me anxiety, right? They make me feel bad about myself. They belittle me, and somehow they're doing all this stuff. It's like we can't be around those people. You know, I'm not saying that if that person's someone like real close to you, and you can't necessarily just kind of get up and go or what have you, but working towards that and lessening it, um, yeah, that's really going to help you out. Being around someone that's positive, trying to find someone that can relate to you, and um, yeah, talk it out. You know, that always helps. Finding those kind of people and kind of giving yourself separation from people that aren't willing to make a change and be a little bit more of a pleasant person to be around. But our actions can also influence us, right? So if we're doing bad things, right? So if we're doing things that aren't good for us and we know it, whatever those actions may be, those that blocks, our self-image. You look at yourself, you look at your actions. Um, that's bad to look at, so doing good and being of service, that is where it's at. When we're start acting out of a place of love um, and that sort of thing. But but yeah, I would ask myself, you know, what is what am I letting influence me, right? What am I letting influence my thoughts and actions? And that usually gives me a little bit of perspective on something I can work on with myself that um, be beneficial, has been in the past, right? Um, and I would also, ask myself, if these thoughts are my own, right? If I'm choosing these thoughts, why am I choosing to talk to myself like this? Right? I wouldn't let anybody else talk to me like this. If they did, the fight would be on, right? And just calling it like I see it, I wouldn't let anybody else talk to me like I talk to myself. Um, yeah, and if I seen someone else speaking to someone else like that, yeah, believe me, it's it's not gonna make me happy. It's not gonna be the best to be around. You know. Uh, so yeah, just kind of being aware of those type of things. Another thing that helped me out, this is spiritually speaking. Our thoughts are not ours alone. Okay, like we have a connection with the other side. Okay, whatever religion it is or belief that you have, we have some kind of connection to the spiritual world, if you will, and um, so I'm a Christian, so I believe that they're being influenced by heaven and hell, all right, and there's like a kind of like a battle going between them a little bit, and the more I allow the light from heaven to shine, right, through my actions, shine into my thoughts, kind of guide my thoughts, kind of guide my actions. The more I let goodness, right, like love and truth, when I think about that and I try to act out of that, right, that has made such a difference in my life. It helps me recognize, um, when I'm allowing negative thoughts into my mind, and um, so that way I can stop doing those things. You know, like one of those things. I don't know. I don't even know if I have a very good example of it, but this is such a broad thing, and this is an idea that comes from Swedenborg. Okay, if you guys don't know who he is, I'd say go look him up. Emmanuel Swedenborg. He is a 17th century scientist turned Christian mystic, and um, he basically had a bunch of spiritual experiences. Not to get too deep into it, but um, you know, this idea is heavily influenced by that, right? And it's the same kind of concept that Carl Jung used, right? The basically like one of the leaders in psychology now, right? Um, it's the idea, it influenced internal family systems with this psychology as well. I mean, the stuff's good. The stuff is great. I recommend anybody going and studying up on that stuff. There's plenty of stuff out there for it. But anyway, moving on to my next point is just knowing that we're in a process, right? Like we're in a process, um, and processes take time, right? We have to allow ourselves room to grow. We have to allow ourselves room to change, right? And this process, it doesn't stop. We just, we work through them, these problems, these resistances, these situations that come up, you know. Um, I mean, you're going to find the light. Nature naturally wants to move towards the light in general. I mean, I'd be speaking, you know, um, exactly right on that, but there is some kind of concept about that. That's that we're constantly trying to seek the light, and um, yeah, we just gotta let that happen, naturally, and know that this is just a process, and we can change. We can take back control of that ship and steer it. You know, but a couple of last things. Um, Mental health is a very serious topic, and if you're having like real harmful thoughts, please seek professional help, or at the very least, talk to somebody. Okay. Um, I'm just a guy sharing what's worked for me. I'm just a guy sharing his experience. I'm not a professional, and something that I said might have resonated with you, and that's good, and that's a start. But follow up on it. Go see a professional about it, or talk to somebody that loves you. Um, I mean, I love you because you made it this far into the video, and buddy, that really means something to me. And um, yeah, I still have some thoughts every now and then. It doesn't stop. Um, and I work through them. I still have thoughts with this, the YouTube thing. Just the other day I was like, oh man, no one's gonna watch this. No one's gonna care. It's like your kid's not even gonna care. Like I was like, what? After I thought about it, I was like, damn, my kid's not even gonna care. Damn, that's pretty bad. Oh me. Um, but yeah, I know as long as I'm coming out with a honest heart and love, everything's gonna be okay. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. That's where we want to be at. We want to be coming uh, with the most love, um, and just wisdom. You know, like finding that truth. You know, finding that love. It's a journey, and I wish you well. And if something resonated with you, leave a comment. Um, all that good stuff, fun stuff. I'm still refining this channel, and yeah. Um, Thank you for tuning into the Kingdom Within podcast.